The moment Catherine Waverly saw the girl's necklace, her entire, perfectly curated world stopped. 1 second, she was lifting a crystal wine glass to her lips, the gracious hostess in her flawless palatial home. The next, she was staring, frozen, silent at the small gold pendant that hung just below the girl's collarbone. It was a delicate, unassuming charm, shaped like a tiny crescent moon, and etched with a single, familiar, and very impossible, initial, L. Her son had just brought his new girlfriend home for dinner. It was supposed to be a simple, if slightly awkward, family meal. But a small antique necklace was about to unlock a 20-year-old secret. Secret so powerful and so devastating that it would threaten to shatter their family forever. What was the story behind the necklace? And why did this one small object hold the key to a past that a powerful woman had tried so desperately to bury? 16-year-old Chase Waverly beamed beside her, his face full of the pure, unadulterated pride of a young man introducing the girl he had brought home to his family for the very first time. But Catherine didn't answer. Her gaze, which had been a mask of a polite, maternal interest just a moment before, was now fixed, with a laser-like and very terrifying intensity, on the small, golden necklace. Robert Waverly, a man who was used to navigating the choppy, unspoken waters of his wife's moods, cleared his throat, a small, awkward sound in the suddenly silent room. Catherine finally blinked. She set her wine glass down on the table, the small, sharp click of the crystal against the polished wood, sound that was as loud and as final as a gunshot. "Excuse me," she said, her voice now a cold, brittle, and very unfamiliar sound as she rose slowly from her chair. "I'll be back in just a moment." She turned and walked with a stiff, almost robotic grace out of the room, one hand reaching up, not for composure, but for the clasp of her own necklace. A necklace that was hidden, always, beneath the high silk collar of her blouse. Something was very, very wrong. Catherine didn't stop until she had reached the soundproofed sanctuary of her master's suite. In the dining room, the atmosphere had thinned, but only just. Jada sipped her water quietly while Chase, now sensing his mother's strange and very abrupt departure, began to ramble, a nervous, youthful attempt to fill the silent, gaping void she had left behind. The room, which had been so full of a forced, polite conversation just moments before, was now completely still. Robert exchanged a quick, almost imperceptible glance with the empty doorway where his wife, Catherine, had so abruptly disappeared. Jada didn't seem to notice the sudden, profound shift in the room's atmosphere. She was still staring down at the small, gold charm, her fingers tracing its familiar, comforting shape completely and blissfully, unaware that it had just unlocked a dark and very secret door in the hearts of the people she was so desperately trying to impress. Catherine stood at the sink in her vast marble bathroom, running cold water over her wrists, her own breath coming in short, shaky, and uneven gasps. She hadn't thought about that night, that one single, terrible night, in almost 20 years. The rain, the fear, the screaming, possible, life-altering decision they had sworn, with a solemn and very desperate vow to never, ever speak of again. And now a girl, a beautiful, intelligent, and very real girl, had just shown up in her home, wearing that necklace. She gripped the cold, hard edge of the counter, fighting to stay upright, fighting against a wave of a past that was now threatening to drown her. Downstairs, her son, Chase, was completely and blissfully unaware of the storm that was raging. In his own mother's heart, he was too busy watching Jada, watching the way her face lit up as she told a soft, nervous, and very funny story about one of her younger coding students who had accidentally programmed a small robot to spin in endless, chaotic circles. Robert chuckled politely, but his mind was spinning. He had seen that necklace before, in a hospital, wrapped in a blood-soaked blanket. A memory he had so carefully and so deliberately buried for too long and very silent decades. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hall. Catherine had returned. She was calm, composed, and as cold as porcelain. She took her seat at the head of the table with a tight and very practiced smile, a A silence so thick, so heavy, so profound that Chase could feel it pressing against his own ribs, fell over the room. Someone, ... Someone warned you, he repeated. Leaning in, his own curiosity now piqued. Jada nodded. Yeah, she said. It was about 3 years ago. I had filed a formal request for my non-identifying records. And the next week, I got a typed, anonymous note in the mail. There was no return address, just one single and very chilling sentence. Catherine's knuckles, which were wrapped around the stem of her wineglass, turned a ghostly white. And you just ... You just stopped? She asked, her own voice trying and failing to sound casual. I was 15, Jada said, a flush of a deep and very real embarrassment on her cheeks. It scared me. I figured that maybe my parents, WERE, dangerous or powerful. So I let it go. She looked away, a new and very painful shame in her own eyes. I just told myself that the past didn't really matter. Robert cleared his throat. You said that the necklace came with you when you were a baby. You still have any of the official paperwork from the system? Jada blinked. Only a copy. Why would you, he asked, his own voice now a little too quick, a little too urgent. Be willing to let us see it? Catherine shot him a sharp warning look from across the table. But Jada just shrugged. An hour later, Chase pulled up outside Jada's tiny apartment in a quiet, working-class part of Southside Chicago. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. From the opulent penthouse ceilings of the Waverly estate to the humble and slightly creaky floorboards of her small apartment. Catherine and Robert had insisted on coming. Catherine, because she had said with a new brittle coldness that she wanted clarity. And Robert, because he hadn't said anything at all. Jada, with a quiet and very real dignity, apologized for the mess, even though her small, clean place was spotless. There were books stacked neatly in the corners, a single, small potted plant on the windowsill, and an old second-hand laptop charging on a makeshift desk that was made from stacked wooden crates. It's in here, she said, her voice a quiet, almost apologetic sound as she retrieved a slim manila folder from a small, fireproof box that she kept under her bed. It's not much, she said. Just the initial intake notes and a faded old medical report from when they found me. She handed the folder to Catherine, who opened it with hands that were now, for the first time, visibly trembling.
Oh.
The top page was a hospital intake report. Female infant, African American, approximately 5 days old. Found abandoned near the Lincoln Park shelter, wearing only a diaper and a crescent moon necklace. No visible injuries. No witnesses. Catherine's breath caught in her throat. Beneath it was a social worker's handwritten note, dated October 12, 2007. Infant appears healthy. An anonymous caller reported the location. The caller's voice was female, in her mid-30s, possibly educated. She refused to give a name.
She
only said, "She is safer without me." Robert stepped back, as if he had been physically struck. Catherine sank down, slowly, onto the edge of Jada's small, neat couch. She wasn't blinking. She was whispering. Chase, who had been standing by the door. A silent and very confused observer now stepped forward. Robert asked the question quietly. He wasn't looking at Jada. He was staring at his wife. Catherine finally spoke, her own voice a low, cracking, and very final sound. No one in that room had dared to. Are you sure? No. Chase said the word again, this time a little louder. Desperate denial against a truth that was now suddenly and very terrifyingly real. No, he said. That can't be right. That's insane. Jada, in the corner of her own small and now suddenly very violated sanctuary, remained silent. Her beautiful, intelligent eyes were brimming with hot, angry tears, but she refused, with every last ounce of her profound and very powerful pride, to let a single one of them fall in front of these people, these strangers, this family that was and was not her own. Catherine, her own face a pale, haunted, and now very broken mask. Finally spoke. The words a quiet, ragged confession she had been holding in for 20 long, in very lonely years. She looked at Jada then. Her own eyes a sea of a 20-year-old in very real regret. A quiet, hesitant knock at her door startled her. It was Chase. He was alone. He looked like he hadn't slept either. He was holding a small, plain white envelope. A private DNA lab, he said, his own voice a low and very tired sound. They'll come to you. There will be no records, no publicity, no drama. Jada just stared at the envelope, but she didn't take it. And then a single, simple email arrived in Jada's inbox. She opened it slowly, her heart pounding a frantic, terrified rhythm in her chest, and she read, 99.999% probability of a direct maternal relationship to Catherine Waverly.
Ow.
And then she read the second line, and a 0.00% probability of a paternal match to Robert Waverly. Catherine stood alone on the rooftop garden of Waverly Tower, clutching the original necklace, the one she had hidden away for nearly 2 decades, the one that was a silent daily reminder of the daughter she had lost and the secret she had kept. The DNA results had confirmed what she had already, in the deepest, most terrified part of her own heart, known to be true. But the second result, the one that confirmed Robert's lack of paternity, had changed everything. All over again. Behind her, a quiet and very steady voice spoke. Catherine turned, her own voice cracking with a new and very fragile emotion. "Thank you," she said. They sat together on a simple stone bench beneath the glass awning, the vast, glittering city spread out before them like a blanket of distant, fallen stars. Catherine reached into her coat pocket, and with a trembling and very hesitant hand, she handed Jada a small velvet box. Inside was the twin necklace, the one she had kept for herself. "I had 2 of them made," she said. "One for me, and one for the baby I thought I would never, ever see again." Jada stared at it. Then she looked up at Catherine, her own eyes now full of a new and very different kind of understanding later that day. In a quiet, sunlit corner of the Foundation's new mentorship wing, Jada was helping a shy and very brilliant 12-year-old girl troubleshoot a broken circuit on a small and very complex robot. Catherine was watching from the hallway, her own eyes wet, but steady. Robert stood beside her. Sometimes the most powerful and most beautiful connections in our lives are not the ones we are born into, but the ones we are brave enough to choose to fight for. If this story has moved you, please share it with someone who believes that a true and lasting healing is always, always possible. And subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us all that love is not about blood. It is about who shows up. Thank you for watching.